welcome to Business Talk Sister Gawk. I'm Becca.
And I'm Ruthie.
And today's episode title is Testing and Troubleshooting a Product Launch. And this is the second in our series talking about a product that we developed and launched. And if you didn't hear the first episode on inventing a product and preparing for launch, you should definitely check that out. It's right before this one. So we're picking up where we left off in the last episode. I'm talking about preparing for shipping, because before you do a launch of your product, especially if you're planning to do pretty much all online sales, you're going to need to make sure that your packaging is really great.
But before we get into that, I just wanted to give you all an update because this is a little PSA. Last episode, I said that my tummy was all sad because I just ate a whole bunch of salsa and chips. I'm doing much better now. So thanks for asking. Thanks for wondering. Anyways, okay. Packaging, whatnot.
Yeah, packaging. And just for context, if you didn't listen to the last one, our product is made out of ceramic, and it's a cup that sits on the sink and drains liquid out into the sink to keep your sponges dry. So we call it the scrubby holder, by the way, right now.
We're kind of troubleshooting, throwing around some different names with that, which is maybe something that's fitting in this episode. I was thinking we were going to talk about marketing in the next episode, but
yeah, we'll talk more about that in the next episode. But so the packaging side of it, and I just recently learned this too, so something to take note of, depends on your state, but if you have time and you go through the Secretary of State's website and you just enjoy perusing tax,
it's just for
sales
fun,
tax,
you know.
If you are purchasing any kind of packaging for your product, this can include the label that goes with anything that's non-returnable. You actually can file a form and request to the person that you're buying, let's say bubble wrap from or whatever, you can say, hey, this is tax exempt because it's something that's non-returnable packaging for my product. I just learned that. I'm like, man, I should have totally taken advantage of that because you're not going to get those costs back. So it's another easy way to save money. So when we were talking about packaging...
And if you want to message us on Instagram, then Becca can tell you more about what that form actually is. Because if you're like me and you're like, oh, that's great, I'll never be able to find that form. But yeah.
Yeah. So with packaging, because our product is made out of ceramic, it needs to be packaged really well. Well, and I'm somebody that's like, how can we make this sustainable? I don't really like using a lot of plastic. How can we try to do this differently so that it works well? We tried shredded paper to begin with, or like crumpled up newspaper. And what I was finding is like in the Midwest, if I was sending something out with, let's say, newspaper that had been recycled and crumpled, it would do okay. But then once I started sending to places on the East and West Coast, it started having some issues. And I noticed, that just longer transportation time, being with other boxes, like maybe it's on top of or below something, it needed to have a lot more ability to bounce back and protect the product because we were having some breakage. And one of the things I will recommend, so here's some key numbers. When you're selling a product online, most people that I've talked to say the sweet spot, especially for Amazon, is around $37. Right? If you go over that, people are like, that's kind of an expensive thing for me to invest in. But shipping is a completely different thing. Shipping, if you have a product, let's say on Etsy, or you're doing shipping separately, they can see the cost, and the shipping is not that big of a thing. And I've even had people be like, oh, I have this problem. I would love this product, but it's not a $40 problem for me, or whatever that price point is. And I'm like, that's fine. You're not my target consumer anyways. And you don't need to let that hurt you. But the reality is that you need to take an average of how much it costs for your shipping to all over the United States as you're factoring your cost. If you're going to offer free shipping, you need to make sure that you build that into your price point. Otherwise, if you have something break, you could be out a lot of money when you're trying to replace it. Like that can quadruple your costs really easily. So it's very, very important to factor that in or charge it separately.
Yeah, and also getting insurance from USPS has really saved us a few times.
Yeah, so I was going to talk a little bit about that. When you have shipping, if you do through priority shipping, they do like 2 to 4 day shipping or whatever it is, what's included with priority shipping is $50 insurance. And that has saved us like a couple different times, because when our product has broken in the mail, we can file a claim if people send us the pictures, and you go through the process and they cut you a check after you can prove that, yes, I did package this well, and clearly there's damage to the box or whatever happened in shipping. And I will say, like, anything that I have ever sent to Oregon has just been demolished.
Portland, they really know how to smash stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know, like, maybe people are just like buying a lot of office furniture and it's getting on top of my boxes. I'm not really sure. But so that was another place where we had a lot of trial and error of like, okay, you get maybe one freebie through your insurance claim of like paying for that broken shipment, but now I have to send it and make sure that it really gets there. And if it doesn't, then you're out that money and you have to replace it again. And I'm passionate about customer service, so I'm like, I'm going to make sure that this product gets there, and I communicate really well with the customer about what's going on and apologize and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, and I would say like the size of your box definitely matters. So what's nice about if you don't have boxes and you're saying my product is a certain size and it'll fit in a USPS box, you can actually order those for free through the USPS website, and they'll ship them right to your house.
And this is something I talked about in a different episode, but I was selling stuff on Mercari for a while and I wanted boxes. And so I ordered some from USPS, but I didn't realize that they come in quantities of 10 or 25 or 50. And like, I guess maybe there wasn't 50, but there was definitely 25. And then, so I just was like, I could take like 5 of those, 10 of those. And then it ended up being, and I was living at Becca's house at the time, so I just like had them all shipped here. And then
I had so many boxes.
It ended up being like over 250 boxes that just like kept showing up and showing up and showing up at her house. And she was like, are you kidding? Stop sending these, which would be a really good prank if you ever wanted to do that.
But you know what? I ended up using like all of them.
Not all of them. I took a whole bunch back to the post office. Okay. Anyways, so you can get those for free from the USPS.
Yeah, but they don't always have the right sizes you want at the post office. If you're looking for special ones, they have like different sizes online. Okay, so in order for me to know the total price point of what I wanted, I needed to either charge the shipping separately or factor it into my cost of shipping for free and charging more for my product. So how I did this for the website, because I wanted to order free shipping or have free shipping on the website, what I did was I basically calculated what the average cost was of shipping to the farthest parts of the United States. So I would do one to like test one shipping if I were going to a zip code in New York versus Florida versus California, and see what the very edges of the United States would look like for me to ship to and what that cost was. And for the size box that we have, it falls into the smaller size of the USPS. We actually have our own boxes that we ordered instead of using theirs because our product is a different size than what they have available. We were seeing that it was costing on average anywhere between $10 to $12 to ship all the way out there. So that's a pretty significant cost. I mean, shipping sometimes for some people's products can be more expensive than the product themselves in terms of purchasing the unit. So that was a significant thing we needed to factor in. And one thing to note, if you do offer free shipping, when you do your calculation, you still have to pay sales tax out of the free shipping that you just bumped your price to. So pay attention to that as you're thinking through those different things.
So you have the product, you have the packaging. How did you do your soft launch?
So what I did was I had those staged lifestyle photos of the product, and I had all my packaging ready. And so I finally went back to this entrepreneurial group on Facebook that I learned so much from already. And we talked about this a little bit last week, but I just wanted to clarify. A lifestyle photo is basically if a person can visualize it in their home or wherever they use
your product in their home. So we just had pictures of it like on sinks and stuff like that. So
yeah. And you would be amazed. I've seen this so many times with my friends where I would pull it out like a little scrubby holder and I would say, look at this, and I'd put it on the table and they'd be like, oh, what is that? And then you take a sponge and you drop it in and you go, voila. And then all of a sudden, like, this light bulb goes off. And they're like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Yeah. And, like, so seriously, placement and what it needs to be next to and how it works is so vital to helping people visualize, because explaining my idea to someone, I would literally, like, people would just be like, huh, and then, like, showing them a picture of it was completely different. Okay, so that's really important, and I think that that's honestly one of the beautiful things I love about product-based businesses versus a service. It's like, you should hire me to do this, and they're like, why?
You can't be like, because look at this all the time.
Yeah. Anyways, there's a visual element to it. So I posted that in this entrepreneurial group and said, hey, where do you think that I should be selling this? Do you think I should start on Etsy, Amazon, website? What do you think I should do? And I posted this just because I wanted to start getting some feedback on what people's perspectives were for their experiences and what's been really doing well. And I was actually, like, surprised by how crazy this was. Like, it was literally, like, I feel like a viral post.
She was just, like, texting me every couple minutes. She sends screenshots of, like, this is how many interactions we've had now, and this is how many people have commented now, and look at all these different reactions to it. And, like, what did you say? Within, like, 4 hours, there were over 600 people who had, like, reacted to it, and then, like, over, I think it was, like, 200 people who had commented.
Yeah. And so this is the part where I know from a marketing perspective, I was like, okay, I need to, like, capitalize on this right now. And so I was literally, like, we were just about to eat dinner and I'm like, I'm sorry, just give me a second. Like, I have to make a product listing and get our business on Etsy because this is the fastest way I can get that out there. And people were like, not only like, here's the places you should look, but then people were like, I want this right now.
Send me the Etsy link. And, like,
yeah. And so I had to go through after dinner. I meticulously went through and commented on every single person like that I could, thanking them for their feedback or asking them an additional question about their advice or saying, if you were interested in this product, you can check out the link here. I just put it up. And right then I was like, I have to make sure that my price is good, like, because I don't want to lose money. And so I had to make a calculation spreadsheet of, like, this is how much fees Etsy's charging me, and this is how much is for shipping, this is how much I know my product boxing costs, plus bubble wrap, plus all this stuff. So I had to do all of that. And then I put it up there and just was, like, sharing it with people that were asking for it. And I just want to give you guys some real numbers, okay? Because I think that so many people talk about, wow, there's, like, this successful product and they're just this unicorn and they just have overcome all these barriers, and, like, okay, those are not normal. And if you have a product and you're like, oh, it's not doing well, that's okay. That is okay, because people only talk about unicorns for the most part, and not everyone can emulate that. And so here's what I want to say. For all of the conversion, right? So for all of the comments and reactions and stuff, I had in that Facebook group over 1,200 reactions to my one post within 24 hours, which is significant. Like, I feel like that's pretty viral for that kind of group, considering there's like 14,000 people in it. So then as I'm commenting on things and making sure I do my due diligence of reacting positively to the people that are there, because I want to have good customer service, what I noticed from that is not that, because it's in an entrepreneurial group, multiple people approached me about it to sell at their boutique or to add to a complement of one of their products, because they're like, wow, this is a really hot item. I need to be servicing it in my store. I need to have this. And because people honestly are more likely to buy something if they can touch it and feel it sometimes in a store than they will by looking at a Facebook post of it. And so there's opportunity there, and a lot of entrepreneurs were asking me about that. And so we made some really great relationships that way. In the Midwest, we were able to, like, even visit, like, a couple places and talk to different people about their businesses in the process and cross promote each other. It was great. And so that's been super fun in that aspect. But here's some data. I'm going to pull up my lovely little screenshot of this. So for those over 1,200 interactions, okay, with the Facebook post, I had 49 visits to my Etsy listing, okay? And from there, I had 5 orders, which when you look at the 49 visits from social media, that's a conversion rate of like 10%, okay? However, for the total number of people that were commenting on the post, that's only like a 1.2%, I think when I calculated it last time, or 2.5, something in there, conversion rate total to actual orders. 5 orders off of that 1,200 original like interactions. That's significantly low, and I want that to be a data point where you hear about, because otherwise sometimes it can be super discouraging if you're like, oh, my ads aren't doing well or this isn't happening. That's okay, because that honestly is such the low conversion rate, and that's completely organic for this one.
And I think that's what some people have a tricky time with, is that they think like, if I spend this, then I should get this amount back. And I was just listening to there was some ad on the radio the other day that somebody was saying, they were like a digital marketing company, and they were like, if you work with us, we will get you on the first page of Google and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, that's some hefty promising you're doing there. But I just think it's like, you have to keep that in mind when you think of like the exposure that your ad is giving, because there's so many different touch points that a customer will have to your ad or your exposure to your product before they might convert and actually buy that. And those statistics will depend on the industry. Like if it's for a product, it just depends on the industry, like what the average touch points or exposure numbers there are for someone to actually convert. But you just have to keep those things in mind, because it seems like it's like, wow, 1,200 people for 5 conversions. Well, yeah, that just means that you need to get in front of a lot more people if you want to keep that ratio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or increase the ratio and really narrow further. Mm-hmm. And I think that the entrepreneurs as a target market are like super low cost and very practical. Mm-hmm. So I think for some of them it may have been a higher price point item that they're like, I'm not in a position to spend money on that, and I know it. Like, and that's okay, because it's incredible actually with that, because what I did when I commented on things was like, hey, if this is something you're interested in the future, save the Etsy listing, like heart it on your Etsy account. And that actually helped a lot, because it wasn't like a huge pressure thing of like, you have to buy this. But if this is something you're like, yeah, I want this on my wish list, add it for later. Or if you know that there's somebody in your life that you want to get that for, save it. And then you can come back to it at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So talk with us a little bit about like what you put in the packaging. Like you had said that you just talked about a call to action that you used of like saving it on Etsy, but what were kind of some of the packaging things that you included in the actual packaging of the product itself?
Yeah. So I think it's really important to talk to people about the reason why, right? And people talk about story branding all the time and why it's so important. And so for us, what I really wanted to focus on, because we have the podcast, is, hey, like, we're trying to teach people about how to build and launch a product. And thanks for being a part of that journey with us. This is literally, you buying this is helping us build our case study to talk about later, and you can check it out on our podcast in the future. And within doing that, obviously you include the receipt for what they purchased, and then I also include a sticker for our podcast, and I also put a sticker on the box. And one of the things that, as I'm like pushing forward to see how can I save money, how can I still make this look nice, one of the things that I was noticing is that when we were trying to save money on our packaging, the shredded paper really wasn't cutting it for those long distance orders. And so I was like, okay, and literally, because I'm not going to go buy shredded paper, I was dumpster diving in the recycling bin. I'm like, you probably are getting some bank's like financial statements shredded or something with your package. But I wanted to try to see if we could save as much as we could on packaging, because it can get really expensive really fast, even though it looks really cute, right? And I think it's really important to do everything you can to save on those costs, especially at the beginning, because you don't know what your numbers are going to be, and you don't want to just totally dig yourself in a hole that you're never going to get out of. And honestly, when I bought a desk for work, When I bought my desk, it came with all of this extra foam, and I was like, oh my goodness, I hit the mother load.
And it was like every Amazon package we'd get, we were saving all this packaging and everything.
Bubble wrap.
Like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, that stuff, like, it costs money. And I'll tell you another story about that, because I finally decided, okay, I'm going to break down and buy bubble wrap, because I was having quite a few, not a ton, but a few claims. And I also talked to somebody else who said, you need to double box. Double boxing really, really helps. And so that was something we invested in. We said, all right, we're going to add an additional box. And I had learned from another Etsy seller what a great customer experience that was, to be able to have another box that was cute inside. And I was like, I think that's worth it for the customer experience, to feel like, ooh, this is adorable. Mm-hmm. And so we did the inside box, and then we ordered our outside boxes to size for what we knew we needed. And I believe we chose, it's called Uline. They're one of the, and I talked with a lot of people, and pretty much everybody was like, oh yeah, Uline, they have like the lowest prices. But let me tell you something about freight shipping.
Okay, please tell us.
Yeah, so if you do not have a freight dock, obviously like at your house, or if you don't have a freight dock at your business, they a lot of times will charge you a residential fee for delivery. And that can be like an additional $50 to $100, depending on what the company is. And that's a lot of money. And so if there's opportunity within your area to use someone else's freight dock to get that shipment, just for the day or whatever, and you know when it's coming, do it, because it's going to save you a lot of money. But so for me, I was like, oh, I'll just order in bulk. Like, this is how much I need to calculate in. And I get this call from the shipping company, and he's like, I'm here and I'm going to drop off your bubble wrap. I'm like, okay, great. You can just put it on the back porch. And I wasn't home. Well, we got home that night, and my husband's like, it filled our back porch. I had so much bubble wrap. I didn't realize how many rolls was bulk and how big it was going to be. And I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with all this storage?
You pranked yourself?
Yeah. It was literally we had to take it apart and put it in roll by roll, because it was not even fitting through the back door.
Now it's taking up their whole sunroom upstairs.
One roll is taking up so much space. Mm-hmm. The rest of it, because it's so light, I literally mounted it in the garage rafters because I was like, I don't know where else I'm going to put this. Mm-hmm. So I definitely learned a lesson on that one about storage. So, and anything when you're self-fulfilling, you have to store a lot of product. So really think about the size of those products, because it can really make a big difference. If you're selling a keychain versus something that's the size of a water bottle, that's significantly a big size difference. And that factors into your shipping costs as well.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a place where you can store it safely? Is it something that's going to get damp? Is it something that's going to be in the way of little kids running around or dogs or whatever? Keep those things in mind too.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I always have to think about too is, for my family, dog hair. When you ship something and
Pickles,
you have
Becca's
bubble
dog's
wrap,
name is Pickles.
it's just hello, dog hair.
He likes to contribute to everything in their whole house. You have a meal, he wants to be part of it. You're drying yourself off with a towel, and suddenly it looks like you are wearing a coat of his hair also. Yeah.
He's a great dog.
It's a bad time. Yeah. He is a good dog, but
but things like that are things you would not even realize you need to think about.
I wanted to ask one more question about the platforms that you chose to start with, and why you chose those.
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of people gave me a lot of different ideas. Should I use a website? Should I use Etsy, Amazon, eBay, all these different things, Facebook Marketplace? And I will say, so first of all, I was like, I really want to get on Facebook Marketplace. Started doing that to do a business platform on Facebook. You have to have a minimum of 4 products to be able to actually get a store.
Which is one of the reasons why we diversified into white.
Yeah. And then on top of that, you can't just list them and process all your payments right there. It has to be actually connected to a business website with e-commerce. And so I realized, oh my goodness, there's so much more that I have to do in order to even test out Facebook selling. And so I decided, well, we should try, we already have the website, so let's just add on WooCommerce, which is a plugin to that, to see how that works with doing transactions. So I know that I think FoxyCart is another one. There's quite a few other different platforms you can use. And the reason I chose this one is I was just a little bit more familiar with it in terms of the user interface. I had built with it before, and I like the aspects of how it integrates with the payment processing. So I can see things, and it also allows me to do all the payments and everything for my shipping. I can buy shipping through them as well. So that was the reason I picked that one to test it out. I would say that honestly, I didn't take that very seriously very far. I did a lot of like short tests with different marketing ads to see how it would go. But one of the big things that I found in that process was that because I have a website that I want to have my cookies policy pop up, a lot of my consumers, when they were reaching the shop page, were not getting past the privacy policy agreement and were leaving. And I will say the thing that I learned the biggest amount from in that was it is such a blessing to use any kind of heat mapping software to watch what your users are doing on your website, because it's going to help you understand where they're getting stuck from the path to purchase. And if you're wasting money on that, you can fix it right away. Because clicks to get clicks and no conversions is worthless. Right? And I would say test all of your ads multiple times with different things to see how it's going to do. And so that was the reason I did the website. I chose Etsy because I needed to get it up there right away. And I personally think that a lot of our target market is already on Etsy because they like handmade goods. I didn't choose Amazon for this product. And here's why, okay? So firstly, there's a lot of stuff with consumer goods products that in the food industry or whatever that a brand has a value, and if you show people that you are in many places that are super common for a really high-end product, a lot of times people actually feel lied to, like you cheated them. And that's actually something
explain more.
So like when somebody says, oh, I got this amazing product and it's handmade and I'm super excited about it, and then somebody's like, oh yeah, you can buy it on Amazon, all of a sudden it's like, what? And it's not that unique anymore. There's like this authentic feeling that gets lost, and there's like a little bit of remorse there. And because I wanted to build something that is unique, I thought that's one reason I don't want to go on Amazon right away. And I don't necessarily know if we'll ever get there in this time period, because here's the other reasons. People are more price sensitive on Amazon than they are on Etsy. So the majority of people that are on Etsy are willing to pay that higher price item because they know that it's like made by hand. Whereas most people on Amazon are looking price per ounce, all that kind of stuff. And Amazon also studies how things are made and tries to like duplicate your stuff. Not everyone's, but if something's selling really well, they're like, let's make our own and sell it for cheaper. And I just didn't want to introduce my product to competitors as easily. And then finally, Fulfilled by Amazon is definitely cheaper for shipping than self-fulfillment, but the storage fees are very price sensitive, or like very risky in terms of how much you have to pay at the beginning and your storage costs. And I just wanted a lower risk way to test before I really rolled out anything bigger. And so those are the big reasons why I didn't choose Amazon this time. And it's not necessarily to say that I won't ever, but I did find that having my product on more than one revenue source, so getting like payments from Etsy and paying for shipping there as well as from the website, adding more and more of those if I were to sell on eBay or anywhere else, that is so much accounting maintenance, so much. And if you don't have any processes that are already integrating those things, which you can do, like QuickBooks integrates really great with Etsy and stuff, but I'm a cheap person and I'm trying to do this as cheap as possible right now because I don't think it's really worth my time at this point to invest in those things that could be long-term costs that transition my entire accounting system. So those are some reasons that it's like it's really hard to manage so many different payment processing centers, including Venmo and PayPal and all these other places. So try to keep it simple, because if you don't, you're going to start losing money and saying, oh, where did I put this here? There's $70 in this account. I need to transfer this over here. And then when it comes time to pay your quarterly sales and use tax, you don't have everything organized and it's a nightmare.
Yeah, and so in our next episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about like the marketing and how we decided to do a couple other things and what we got as feedback from clients or not customers and things like that. So we'll get into that, and then we'll also talk about some shows that we've done. So tune in next week for that. And now we're going to transition into the Sister Gawk portion, and we're going to talk about the time that Becca made a very thoughtful gift to give to my dad.
Okay, so this present was we used to play this game called the Towel of Comfort, and basically it's where we would pamper my dad.
So it came about because we were too rough, and so we were just like attacking my dad all the time, and then my mom was like, be gentle, and so then we started this thing where we would just like all pamper my dad instead of jumping all over him.
We would pretend like he needed to be
At a spa.
Yeah, at a spa, and he needed like his hand massaged or whatever.
And we'd put this towel on him and smooth it all out, and then we'd like put a little washcloth on his forehead.
Yeah, and he would just be sitting there the whole time, and we thought we were the coolest. So I decided that it would be really cool to make a chair, like a comfort chair. And we had this like wooden lawn chair. And I was like, the first time my mom ever let me use power tools, and I don't know why she did. But first it started because I was hammering with a nail a board on top of the
existing
armrest. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm making a cup holder. And then I like took a towel, like a hand towel, and I shoved a pillow inside it and had wrapped it up and then stapled it to the back of the chair. And when I was trying to make this cup holder, I didn't know how to like make a cup holder really, so I just used like a regular
screw
bit,
like a
drill bit, and I just made multiple puncture holes in like in over and over and over again, all the way around to like make it indent so that you could fit a cup in it. And I don't really think it worked very well, but I was very proud of myself, and I painted the chair and all this stuff. And then my dad would sit in and go, oh yeah, this is so comfortable.
Yeah. And we bring him water or tea and all kinds of stuff. We had such a grand old time. And then I would take pens and I'd pretend like they were like, you know, like the ones with the little thing that you can hook them on, like the little hooky guys on pens, and I pretend it was a little razor, and I'd like shave his beard and stuff, and like just goofy things like that. Yeah. And then next week we're gonna talk about, so stay tuned for the Sister Gawk portion, because we're gonna talk about how Becca's little gift became a weapon of mass destruction to our family.
Yeah, so you're definitely going to want to tune in next week if you're not interested in logic of product. Well, thanks for joining us this week. If you like this episode, you should follow us on Instagram.
Because why not?
Because it's free, and we would love to get to know you. We'll see you next week.